This 5-year-old girl is really strange. The other children all gave their hats to the teacher, but Seowoo gave her hat to the ghost boy. The teacher and the children were all scared of Seowoo's strange actions. Even today, when walking on the street, a shaman exclaimed that Seowoo was a special girl. Seowoo's parents saw that this shaman was mentally unstable, so they took Seowoo away immediately. Indeed, what the shaman said was true. There was a ghost that was always by Seowoo's side. But this ghost did not want to harm her, because this ghost named Yuri was Seowoo's biological mother. Seowoo accidentally dropped the cup on the ground, causing water to splash everywhere. She picked up the plug and walked straight towards the outlet. When Seowoo was about to be electrocuted, Yuri shouted to stop her. As a result, Yuri's hand went through Seowoo's body. Luckily, the stepmother stopped Seowoo in time. It turns out that Seowoo's biological mother had long since become a ghost. It's just that Yuri couldn't let go of her biological daughter, so Yuri was always by her daughter's side. Yuri reached out to shield Seowoo from the sun, but it had no effect. Despite this, Yuri was not discouraged. As long as she could see her daughter every day, Yuri was satisfied. At night, Yuri returned to her ashes. She walked lightly as if she was afraid of something. Suddenly, the shaman reached out and grabbed Yuri's neck from behind. This shaman was in charge of taking the wronged souls to reincarnation. Because of her easygoing personality, she always failed to complete the tasks assigned by the gods, leading to more and more ghosts who had not fulfilled their wishes and refused to leave. Yuri was one of them. Today is Yuri's death anniversary. Her parents brought food to burn incense for her. Her father wiped her memorial photo and cried in grief while her mother tried to act strong. Her mother told her father not to cry anymore. Then her mother went to the bathroom and used the sound of running water to cover up crying. Seeing her mother in such pain, Yuri was also very sad. When they left, the younger sister Yeonji said that today they should call the brother-in-law to come to the death anniversary together. But the mother did not agree when she said that, because he had remarried anyway. The person they were talking about was a doctor named Kang Hwa. The day before his ex-wife's death anniversary, Kang Hwa was still telling jokes to his colleagues. They talked and laughed happily together. On the way home from work, Kang Hwa swayed to the music and enjoyed life to the fullest. It seemed like he had forgotten about his ex-wife. A long time ago, Kang Hwa and Yuri fell in love at first sight through the introduction of a friend. After 4 years of passionate love, they returned to the bar where they first met. At that time, there was a football match, and they had arranged their engagement. It seemed like everyone present was cheering for them. They got married soon. But what people didn't expect was that their fate would only last 9 years. This was the last time Yuri sent Kang Hwa off to work. At that time, Yuri and her pregnant belly were finishing their sales service when suddenly a person rushed across the road. The driver turned the steering wheel to avoid this person, and the car rushed towards Yuri. Yuri unconsciously turned around to protect the child in her belly. Yuri fell to the road, both scared and muttering to save her child. At that time, at the hospital, there was a patient in critical condition. Kang Hwa ignored the professor's objections and was determined to perform surgery to save the patient. Kang Hwa didn't want to be bothered by the professor, so he asked someone to hang up the phone. At this time, the news of Yuri's car accident reached the professor's ears, so he asked the staff to quickly call Kang Hwa. At this time, Yuri's life and the child in her womb were in danger. Perhaps they couldn't wait for Kang Hwa to arrive. Yuri grabbed the professor's arm and begged him to save the life of the child in her womb no matter what. Not long after, Yuri heard the child's cry. She shed a tear and then stopped breathing. Kang Hwa had just walked out of the operating room. He didn't expect his pregnant wife to die on the operating table due to the accident. Kang Hwa ran to Yuri's side. He didn't want to believe this was true. Kang Hwa grabbed Yuri's hand and cried, not knowing what to do. Then he blamed the professor for choosing to keep the child against Yuri's wishes. But he didn't know that Yuri was seriously injured and couldn't be saved. From that moment on, Kang Hwa had a psychological problem with the operating room. Before, they said that when the baby was born, she couldn't cry. The two of them had to welcome their child sweetly. But in just a short month, Kang Hwa lost his most beloved wife. They couldn't fulfill their promise. Kang Hwa went to visit his child alone. His current emotions were neither happy nor surprised. At Yuri's funeral, most of the mourners had left. Yuri's father finally couldn't control himself and cried loudly. There was no way in the world to calmly face separation. Even if there was, it was just an act. Kang Hwa was drunk on the side of the road. He blamed himself for everything and slapped himself in the mouth. Then Kang Hwa knelt down in front of his parents-in-law and begged them to adopt Yuri's child. As a result, his mother-in-law immediately refused. Actually, this mother-in-law was a sensible person. She knew that the only thing that Kang Hwa could not let go of right now was this child. If they agreed to Kang Hwa, he would definitely think negatively because he missed Yuri and did something foolish. Yuri's mother told Kang Hwa to work hard to take care of his child. As long as he didn't have any free time, he would be able to get through this period. From then on, Kang Hwa started a new life. Kang Hwa named his child Seowoo. He took care of Seowoo every day. No matter how busy he was, Kang Hwa still took took good care of his daughter, he still felt uncomfortable when he had free time. Time passed year after year, and his daughter learned to walk. Another winter has come, but he is no longer alone with his daughter. This year, So-woo is 5 years old, and Kang-hwa has a new family. When Kang-hwa is alone and sees other couples, he still thinks of Yu-ri. It's just that Kang-hwa doesn't know that Yu-ri's soul is always by his side. She doesn't reincarnate, but stays with her family all day. When she sees her husband sad, she can't help but cry. As time passes, year after year, her emotions gradually calm down. Her husband has married another woman. This is even what Yu-ri wants to see. Kang-hwa and her new lover met while studying medicine together. She is Min-jung, and she really likes Kang-hwa. One day, Min-jung accidentally heard that Kang-hwa had a girlfriend. After that, Min-jung stopped approaching Kang-hwa. After Yu-ri died, the one holding the child in her arms was Min-jung. Min-jung still didn't know that the dead woman was Kang-hwa's wife. It wasn't until Kang-hwa went to visit his newborn child alone that Min-jung knew what had happened. Kang-hwa was currently drinking sadly on the side of the road. Min-jung sat across from Kang-hwa and ordered 2 bowls of noodles. Kang-hwa quickly told the owner that he didn't eat, so 1 bowl of noodles for Min-jung was fine. Min-jung quickly replied that she would eat both bowls of noodles by herself. Kang-hwa finally smiled. Yu-ri had waited for this moment of relief for so long. A few years later, Yu-ri witnessed their love, and then the day the two of them walked down the aisle to get married. But Yu-ri still had an indescribable feeling in her heart. After getting married, Min-jung quit her job at the hospital and focused on taking care of Se-woo at home. Min-jung became Se-woo's real mother. Because there have been many bad rumors about Min-jung for a long time, she has always been quiet and doesn't like to socialize. Today is Se-woo's birthday, and also Yu-ri's death anniversary. Kang-hwa looks especially excited. In fact, he is covering up his miserable heart. At this time, Yu-ri is in the house and feels like there is another ghost in the house. Finally, she discovers a wandering spirit in her daughter's small tent. He has nowhere to go, so he hides here all day. Yu-ri chases him away without hesitation for the sake of her daughter. At this time, So-woo walks out of the room. When So-woo goes to Yu-ri, she stops. Then So-woo avoids Yu-ri and goes to the sofa. Yu-ri is very surprised when she sees it. This shows that So-woo can see ghosts. In the kindergarten, there is a boy who can walk through walls. So-woo, who is nearby, can see spirits and follows. After a long while, the teacher found that So-woo was nowhere to be found. Yu-ri also knew that So-woo was missing. They started searching the entire kindergarten. When Yu-ri passed by the kitchen, she suddenly stopped. She saw a ghost running out of the refrigerator. Yu-ri quickly ran into the kitchen and peeked in to see, and sure enough, her daughter was there. But So-woo had fainted. Yu-ri shouted loudly for help, but she was just a ghost, so others couldn't see her. They also couldn't hear what she was saying. Yu-ri could only shout So-woo's name in despair, when suddenly she reacted a little. So-woo's foot touched the refrigerator door. The refrigerator door opened just as the teacher passed by and saw it. They quickly took So-woo to the hospital. So-woo's father and stepmother also quickly ran over. Kang-hwa looked up at the vital signs monitor, which was stable. They finally breathed a sigh of relief. Then Yu-ri ran to the shaman to ask what happened. Yesterday, Yu-ri also found that her daughter avoided her and left. The shaman told Yu-ri that she shouldn't stay by her daughter's side for so long. Now that So-woo is under Yu-ri's influence, So-woo will see more ghosts. Yu-ri was extremely sad after hearing this. As long as her daughter can return to normal, even if she never sees her again or has to go to hell, it's fine. At first, Yu-ri wanted to see her daughter walk before leaving, but when that time came, she had other expectations. She really wanted to witness each stage of her daughter's growth. Yu-ri didn't know that by doing so, she was hurting her daughter. Yu-ri was extremely heartbroken afterwards. She walked on the busy street. Yu-ri looked around at the many happy people and wondered why she wasn't one of them. Now she didn't even have the right to see them. Just as Yu-ri was crying in the rain, her urn flashed. In the winter, there was a sudden thunder and lightning, and the snowflakes floating in the air instantly turned into hail and fell to the ground. The shaman noticed the unusual weather and seemed to understand something. The string of beads on her hand suddenly broke and scattered all over the floor. After a while, the weather returned to normal. At this time, Yu-ri saw Kang-hwa's family. What Yu-ri didn't expect was that Kang-hwa saw her. Min-jung saw Kang-hwa looking back, so she asked him what he was looking at. He said nothing. Maybe he was seeing things. Yu-ri found snowflakes falling on her shoulder. While she was still surprised, a man bumped into her. At this moment, she finally understood that she had come back to life. She happily greeted passersby because being alive was such a wonderful thing. She calmed down soon after. She didn't understand why she suddenly came back to life. At this moment, the shaman came to Yu-ri with an umbrella. The shaman was afraid that Yu-ri would catch a cold, so she invited Yu-ri to her house to talk. The shaman asked Yu-ri what she had done to bring her back to life. It turned out that Yu-ri had just cried and blamed fate for being unfair. She couldn't help but curse the gods loudly. This wasn't a resurrection at all, but a kind of judgment. Originally, Yu-ri was supposed to receive the judgment of the gods in 49 days. After that, she would either be reincarnated or become some kind of animal. According to the shaman's judgment, Yu-ri had to regain her original original position in the family within 49 days, which also meant that she would become Kangwa's wife and return to being So-woo's mother. If she succeeds, she can truly be reborn. If she fails, the shaman doesn't know what kind of scary thing she will reincarnate into in her next life. But Kangwa has remarried, so Yuri doesn't want to do that. The first place Yuri goes after she is reborn is to her parents. But Yuri's mother's heart is not good, so after Yuri thinks for a while, she just leaves. At this time, Yuri hears her parents talking to her younger sister. Yuri quickly hides in the back of the car. At this time, Yuri's family is walking the dog when suddenly, the dog walks towards Yuri. Yuri's mother also feels curious, but she doesn't notice Yuri. After that, Yuri goes to her friend's pub, but it is closed. Obsessive-compulsive disorder makes Yuri arrange the photos on the wall. The messy photo wall becomes neat and tidy. The next day, Yuri's friend Hyunjung comes to the store. Hyunjung sees the change as soon as she sees it. It seems that someone broke in last night. She quickly opened the cash register and put her index finger inside to measure it and found that the thickness of the 10,000 won was not the same as before. Then Hyunjung called her husband, Kyung-sang. Hyunjung thought that her husband had stolen money from the house again. 10,000 won was so little that Kyung-sang really didn't want to take it. That amount of money couldn't even buy a chicken. At this time, Yuri paid 10,000 won and ate a skewer on the side of the road. This was the first thing she had eaten in 5 years. Suddenly, Kangwa also came to this shop. Yuri immediately turned around and hid behind the poster. Luckily, he only bought a cup of coffee and left. But Kangwa dropped his employee ID card here. After Yuri finished eating, she wanted to go to the hospital to give the employee ID card to Kangwa. At this time, a ghost got in the car from the back door. She took Yuri's seat. Yuri remembered what the shaman said: if she saw a ghost, she must pretend not to see anything, or she would be in trouble. Not long after, Yuri arrived at the hospital. Yuri handed Kangwa's employee ID card to the receptionist. This scene was seen by Kyung-sang, who was passing by. Kyung-sang was confused and closed his eyes tightly, hoping that he was seeing things. When he opened his eyes again, Kyung-sang could not see anything. It turned out that Yuri had discovered Kyung-sang and had run away. When Kangwa received his employee ID card, for some reason, it was upside down. He then put it back in place and saw that his photo had been drawn on. Just now, when Yuri was sitting on the bus, she had used a pen to draw on Kangwa's photo. After being happy, Yuri was a little scared because she used a ballpoint pen, so even with saliva, she could not wipe it off. There was no other choice but to turn the card upside down. But Kangwa had seen Yuri use this method to tease him before, especially the two words, idiot. Kangwa asked his colleague who sent it. Before Kangwa could wait for an answer, another doctor rushed in. There was an emergency at the hospital. A patient with a ruptured heart needed emergency surgery. The thoracic surgery department was short of staff, so all the doctors were operating. Kangwa was pushed from the outpatient clinic to do the surgery. After all, he used to be a thoracic surgeon. Because of his wife's passing 5 years ago, he had always been obsessed with the operating room. Now he could only try to perform surgery to save people. Not long after, he started having difficulty breathing. The image of Yuri's corpse lying on the hospital bed appeared in his mind again. Kangwa still couldn't do it. In the end, they still couldn't complete the surgery. Professor Jung angrily avoided scolding Kangwa. Then he took off Kangwa's medical certificate and threw it on the ground. He asked Kangwa what qualifications she had to be a doctor. If Professor Jung hadn't completed the surgery ahead of schedule and he had rushed to take over, the patient would have died because of Kangwa. On the other side, Yuri had just been revived by the gods, and the first person she met was her daughter. Yuri went to the window and saw the ghost boy from before. Moreover, So-woo had always followed that boy. Yuri remembered the danger So-woo had in the refrigerator the last time, so she decided to find a way to chase the ghost boy out of the kindergarten. But Yuri searched for a long time, but couldn't find So-woo and the ghost boy. Suddenly, the ghost boy ran out from inside and passed Yuri. Before Yuri could call the ghost boy back, So-woo had already run to Yuri's place. When Yuri saw him, she immediately hugged So-woo. Yuri was holding her daughter for the first time. The feeling she had right now was exactly what she had always dreamed of. Yuri had reached out to hug So-woo countless times, but she couldn't touch So-woo every time. Now Yuri had a hard time hugging her daughter. She was so happy that she couldn't bear to let go. At this moment, the teacher came out of the classroom. She mistook Yuri for a nanny who had come to pick up So-woo. Yuri didn't deny it, so Yuri happily took So-woo home. On the way back, So-woo suddenly stopped. It turned out that she wanted to go to the park to play. At this time, Kangwa went to the funeral home to visit Yuri, but Minjung called him and said she couldn't find So-woo. Yuri was currently blinded by this happiness. She was completely immersed in her own world and accidentally caused So-woo to fly off the swing. Yuri quickly ran to help So-woo up. Seeing her daughter's injured hand, she was heartbroken. Yuri cried and apologized to So-woo. Minjung and the others were still running around looking for So-woo. At this time, Kangwa heard Yuri's crying. Suddenly, Kangwa stopped. He carefully looked in the direction of the crying sound. Kangwa suddenly met Yuri, but that also surprised him. The the wife that Kanwa had lost for 5 years, appeared in front of him. Yuri was also surprised to see her husband again. Kanwa handed So-woo to Minjung. Kanwa didn't have time to explain to Minjung. After that, Kanwa ran to meet Yuri. Just as Yuri wanted to deny everything, Kanwa put the identification card in front of her, so she couldn't help but admit that she was Yuri. But Yuri didn't tell Kanwa that she was a ghost before, and that she would be judged 49 days later. Kanwa took Yuri to the hotel first. Then he left her his credit card and said he would visit her again tomorrow. When Kanwa got home, Minjung asked him who picked up So-woo. Kanwa answered vaguely that it was just a friend. Seeing that he didn't want to talk, she didn't ask any more questions. At this time, Kanwa's phone kept getting messages about money being deducted. It was Yuri who ordered a lot of food. The table in Yuri's room was filled with food. Then, she took out a bunch of beer from the refrigerator. Finally, she could have a full meal. Before, when Yuri was a ghost, she could only watch them eat and drink, but she couldn't eat. The next morning, Yuri woke up from the hotel. She felt that she couldn't waste these 49 days. Yuri thought that she had to deal with the ghost boy next to her daughter first. But the matter of Yuri being resurrected was known to the other ghosts. They asked her to pass the message to her living relatives, but Yuri refused. If all the ghosts came to her to pass the message to their relatives, her 49 days of resurrection would have passed in vain. Their conversation was heard by many ghosts, so they surrounded Yuri. This time, Yuri also understood why the shaman told her to keep her resurrection a secret. Yuri barely escaped them when she happened to see her mother. Yuri's mother was a little thin now. Moreover, her knee problem had also relapsed. At this time, Kanwa continued to receive messages about money being deducted. He discovered that Yuri was using her credit card to pay for medical products. He guessed that she wanted to go see her biological parents, so he quickly called Yeonji. Kanwa told Yeonji to give her father and mother sedatives first because something might happen later. After saying that, he immediately went to her parents' house. The mother scolded Yeonji when she knew that her son-in-law was coming. She wouldn't allow her family to have anything to do with him. Kanwa went to Yuri's house and asked Yeonji if there were any guests. At this time, Kanwa saw a lot of dietary supplements on the ground. It seemed that Yuri had arrived earlier. If Yuri didn't want her family to know, then Kanwa couldn't reveal it. At this time, Yuri had arrived at her daughter's kindergarten. She saw the ghost boy who had been following Seo-woo. Yuri called the ghost boy out to talk. She emphasized that the boy shouldn't appear in the kindergarten because he would make the children sick. Yuri stood up and wanted to take the boy somewhere else. The teacher saw Yuri's strange behavior and ran out. The ghost boy took the opportunity to run towards the classroom. Yuri wanted to chase after her, but was stopped by the teacher. At this time, Yuri saw a job posting on the door, so she applied for this job. At that time, she could see her daughter and drive away the ghosts around her daughter. In the evening, Kanwa came to pick up his daughter and go home. Kanwa looked through the glass door and saw Yuri with her daughter. He felt that he owed her too much. Kanwa turned and left. He wanted to give them more time together. Not long after, Minjung called Kanwa and said that she wanted to pick up Seo-woo. Kanwa wanted to stop Minjung but failed. Although Minjung had never met Yuri, Minjung had seen her photo. Moreover, Kanwa thought that Yuri still didn't know that he had remarried. If he let the two of them meet, it would be difficult to explain. At this time, Minjung was near the kindergarten. Kanwa ran straight to the kindergarten. Kanwa had to pick up her daughter before Minjung arrived. At this time, So-woo heard Minjung's voice and ran out. Yuri followed closely behind So-woo. Finally, Yuri and Minjung met. Minjung was very surprised to see Yuri. At this time, Kanwa also ran over. Just as Kanwa was about to explain, the teacher came out and called Yuri in for an interview. On the way home, Minjung asked Kanwa if he didn't feel like the person just now looked a lot like his ex-wife. Kanwa stopped wanting to tell her the truth, but he didn't know how to say it. In the end, he still couldn't say it. That evening, Kanwa went to the hotel to apologize to Yuri about his remarriage. Yuri said that she was dead, so he had to continue living. Kanwa had nothing to apologize for. Kanwa gave Yuri a phone before leaving. Yuri returned to her room and logged into her previous social media account. Yuri found that her best friend Hyunjung had posted a lot of content about missing her. Yuri was heartbroken and accidentally clicked the like button. Hyunjung opened her phone notification and was scared because Yuri had been gone for many years and had liked her post. Yuri was worried and didn't know what to do. Yuri only had 49 days to live again. Her only wish was to get rid of the ghosts around her daughter. Today she ran to the shaman and asked for some talismans. So the shaman used a color printer to mass-produce talismans. Yuri went to the kindergarten and saw the ghost boy still following her daughter. Yuri followed the boy to the kitchen. The boy hid in the refrigerator again. Yuri opened the refrigerator door and held the talisman in front of the boy. Strangely, the boy looked very excited to play with the talisman. The boy almost swallowed her charm. Yuri felt like the shaman was tricking her. But in fact, she wasn't tricking Yuri. Only by being aware that they were ghosts would the charm work. It was clear that this child didn't know that he was dead. When it was time time to eat, Yuri gave Seo-woo a lot of meat. Then Yuri took the spoon from the senior standing next to her and scooped some dried food out of the soup for Seo-woo to eat. The senior didn't know that Seo-woo was Yuri's daughter, so she said that Seo-woo was very eccentric. Some parents were afraid that Seo-woo would affect their children, so they suggested transferring Seo-woo to another class. Yuri was very angry when she heard that. She said that if they wanted to transfer, they should transfer their children. But Seo-woo was really strange. The other children all gave their hats to the teacher, but Seo-woo kept giving it to the ghost boy. Perhaps Seo-woo saw that the boy couldn't pick up anything on the ground, so she just wanted to help him. When Yuri passed by the photo wall, she noticed the ghost boy in the family introduction section. It turned out that the boy had been in this kindergarten before he died, so that was the reason why he refused to leave. When school was over, he saw his friends being picked up by their parents, and he became more and more disappointed. The ghost boy was still waiting for his mother to pick him up. After the children had all gone home, Yuri walked up to the boy and asked him if he was waiting for his mother to pick him up. At 3 p.m. the next day, Yuri found an excuse to go out. It turned out that Yuri had told the ghost boy's mother about this. Yuri hoped that the ghost boy's mother could come pick up her son. The mother showed up at the appointed time. Yuri hid to the side and watched her ring the kindergarten bell. Finally, the boy waited for his mother to pick him up. The boy was very happy. The principal shyly went over to ask. At this moment, the boy ran to his mother. The mother bent down to look. The principal bent down to ask Seo-woo what was wrong. Seo-woo did not answer, but she held a toy in her hand. The mother took the toy from Seo-woo's hand. The mother saw her son's name written below. The mother was so sad that she couldn't help but cry. At this moment, the boy was hugging his mother tightly. Looking at his small figure following his mother, Yuri was a little emotional. Although Yuri had achieved her goal, she also felt a little sad. Yuri went back inside and heard the teachers discussing that mother. It was said that she didn't want her son to play with Seo-woo when he was alive, so she went to the kindergarten and made a fuss. At this moment, the ghost boy's mother met Minjung and immediately called her to take it back. The mother apologized to Minjung for what she had done before. She also asked Minjung to say thank you to Seo-woo on her behalf. After Yuri got off work, she walked home. She was still sad about what had just happened. At this time, someone walked up to Yuri. That person was extremely surprised to see Yuri. This person was Yuri's best friend Hyunjung. Kyung-sang checked the camera in the store and was extremely scared. His wife's best friend, who had passed away for 5 years, had appeared in his store. He wanted to share this good and scary news with his wife. At this time, Hyunjung returned to the store. Kyung-sang quickly ran out and called his wife to come in and check the camera. But he was even more surprised when Yuri was standing behind his wife. He didn't expect his wife to be so calm. Kyung-sang immediately ran away. It turned out that Hyunjung had met Yuri on the street and brought her back. Yuri miraculously came back to life, making Kang-hwa unable to understand it, no matter how hard he thought about it. He was worried that she might disappear at any moment. Suddenly, he thought that maybe there would be an answer online. Sure enough, there was some news about strange deaths and resurrections. He clicked on it, and the content said, "Are you an idiot to believe everything?" At this time, Kyung-sang sent a message to his wife saying that Yuri was at the store, so she should hurry up and get there. As soon as Kyung-sang left, Professor Jang came to Kang-hwa's office. There were a bunch of papers on Kang-hwa's desk, but the professor couldn't find Kang-hwa. He asked the nurse if Kang-hwa had gone to the bathroom. The nurses replied that he had finished work. For the first time in 5 years, Kang-hwa came home early, which surprised Professor Jang. On this side, Hyun and Kyung-sang were asking Yuri why she was able to come back to life and why she didn't go back to visit her parents. Yuri begged them to mind their own business. They just needed to give her 49 days. In the end, everyone respected Yuri's opinion. The next day, Yuri continued to exorcise the ghosts in the kindergarten for her daughter. The red beans and the magic charm were her magical tools. There were a total of 5 ghosts in the kindergarten, but they refused to leave. At this time, the shaman was performing a ritual to exorcise evil spirits for someone else when she discovered that the magical tools had disappeared. At this time, the 5 ghosts in the kindergarten were stuck to a tree. It turned out that the magical tools were with Yuri. They could only compromise and agree with Yuri to leave this place. In the evening, Yuri and Hyunjung ate at the convenience store. Hyunjung asked Yuri if she wasn't curious about what kind of person her daughter's stepmother was. Yuri knew everything. After all, her spirit had been with them for 5 years. Every night, Minjung would open the kitchen cabinet. Inside there was a bottle of soju that she hid. Yuri said that although Minjung was a bit autistic, she was definitely a good person. At this time, Minjung also went to this convenience store. Yuri was afraid that Minjung would recognize her, so she quickly hid. Minjung went into the convenience store to get a bottle of soju. After a while of internal struggle, Minjung still gave up. Minjung took a can of beer and sat across from Hyunjung. Hyunjung was the only person Minjung could talk to right now. Seo-woo's health test this morning had problems. Seo-woo's thinking and language abilities were both low. Minjung took everything out on herself. Although Minjung was not good at communicating with children, she still treated Yuri's daughter as her own. For Yuri, having such a mother who could raise and teach Seowoo to adulthood was Yuri's blessing. Today, Kanghwa felt uneasy because the school organized an activity for relatives. He would be stuck between Yuri and Minjung. During the activity, Minjung came out of the classroom and called Kanghwa back. At this time, Seowoo was alone. Seowoo took some red beans from someone else. A mother sitting next to her wanted to protect her son, so she said a few words to Seowoo. Seowoo, don't take it from this side. Why don't Seowoo take the red beans from the other side? Seowoo's parents came in and saw this scene. Suddenly, someone poured red beans on the mother's head. It turned out that Yuri stood up to protect her daughter. Yuri said that this was the right way to play the red bean game. Not only that, when Yuri brought food to the children, she suddenly heard Seowoo crying. It turned out that a classmate bit Seowoo's hand. While everyone was still surprised, Yuri rushed to Seowoo with a panicked look. Minjung was very surprised by Yuri's actions. Only then did Yuri realize that her actions seemed a bit too much, so she had to step back. That night at Hunjung's bar, Yuri blamed herself for being too worried that Minjung would know the truth, and then Minjung's current family would fall apart because of Yuri. At this moment, the shop had a customer. The appearance of that person made Hunjung and Yuri a bit surprised. It turned out to be Minjung. Minjung sat down next to Yuri. Minjun wanted to order a bottle of soju, but was afraid that she would get drunk, so she ordered a glass of beer. Seeing that, Hyunjung immediately gave Minjung a bottle of soju, saying that drinking beer at night would make her gain weight. Minjung glanced at Yuri and said that she looked too much like Seowoo's mother. Minjung also saw that Yuri often cared about her daughter. The three of them were silent. Minjung finished 3 glasses of wine and told Yuri that if Yuri liked Seowoo so much, then she should be Seowoo's mother. Hyunjung and Yuri were very worried when they heard that. They were afraid that Minjung knew Yuri was Seowoo's mother. But because Minjung was so drunk, she fell unconscious on the table. When Minjung woke up at her house, she found herself in a messy state. For some reason, she had 2 more wounds on her forehead. She couldn't remember what happened last night. On the way to take her daughter to school, Minjung met Yuri and Hyunjung, very familiar figures. Hyunjung had a wound on her nose, and Yuri had a wound on her forehead. Minjung remembered that Hyunjung and Yuri were worried that Minjung would not be safe if she got drunk and went home, so they followed her. Minjung was so drunk that she saw the leaves of the tree turning into money and falling all over the ground, so she rushed over and hugged all the leaves into her arms. Moreover, the denominations were getting bigger and bigger. Then Minjung rushed out into the street. Yuri quickly pulled Minjung back. Minjung looked at Yuri for a long time, and then she said what was in her heart, that she was afraid of Yuri's face. Then they banged their heads together one by one. The next day, there was still a lot of leaves in Minjung's pocket. All the ghosts, after knowing that Yuri was resurrected because she cursed the gods, started to blaspheme the gods. The shaman quickly came to the temple when she heard the news and chased all the ghosts out of the temple. These ghosts always caused trouble for the shaman. In order to punish the ghosts, the shaman temporarily locked them in urns of ashes. But a talisman was not firmly attached, so 3 people escaped from there. Everyone called the 3 of them to tear the talisman, but the souls could not touch the objects. Suddenly they thought of Yuri. Then they went to the kindergarten to follow Yuri's daughter. Yuri saw the ghosts around Seowoo. She immediately ran to Seowoo worriedly. It turned out that they were helping Yuri chase away the ghosts that were following her daughter. Not long after, Yuri held a stack of charms in her hand to release everyone. But as soon as they saw Yuri, they immediately considered her as the intermediary between the underworld and the living world. They asked Yuri for all kinds of things, but Yuri only lived for 49 days, so she didn't have time to complete so many things. Yuri stood up to leave, but the ghost's words moved her. She was the only one who understood their feelings the best. If she refused, then they wouldn't be able to ask anyone else. After everyone left, there would be a lot of regrets. This student, in a moment of not thinking clearly, did something foolish. Now she looked at her mother's haggard face and wished that if she could do it all over again, she would never choose to do that. And the girl's soul was watching her daughter suffer. Her daughter had cancer, but didn't take painkillers, because that year she also died of the same disease. The mother's last words were that she was in great pain. Only then did the girl understand that she was wrong. She tried everything to treat her mother, but caused her mother to suffer. She said that compared to the pain she brought to her mother, this little pain was nothing. In the end, Yuri decided to fulfill a wish for each of the ghosts here. They clapped their hands happily, but they didn't know that their remaining time was running out. Yuri helped the ghost clean their son's room. Not long after, the son returned to find his messy house miraculously clean again. There was also a table of delicious food on the table. Actually, it was all taught to Yuri by the ghost mother next to her. Humans couldn't see ghosts. Only Yuri was temporarily hiding in the closet. Just as she was tying her hair, the rubber band flew away. The rubber band flew out and was seen by her son. He held a stick and stood guard guard by the closet door. The three ghosts told Yuri to hold the door tight. Yuri heard that and did the same. Time went back 20 years. When their family had just finished attending the parent-teacher conference for their daughter, they were about to pick up their son from school, but all three of them had an accident right at the school gate. Their youngest son witnessed this scene with his own eyes. All three of them died, leaving only their son alone. Because they were worried about their son, they had been by his side for the past 20 years. It was just that they hated their son's job as a pilot because they couldn't be by his side when he was working, mainly because it was too close to the sky. They were afraid that the gods in the sky would take them away. In fact, in his introduction album, he wrote a sentence saying, "If my family is no longer here, then I will go to heaven." This was the reason why he chose this profession. Yuri was discovered by him at this time and hit on the head with an empty stick. Afterwards, she only had a little nosebleed. After explaining to he thought Yuri was the one who came to clean the house. After Yuri finished, she left his house. As for the three spirits, they sincerely thanked Yuri. Yuri simply cleaned up a bit and then went to the funeral home. The place suddenly became unusually quiet. Because Yuri could only do one thing for them, they had to think carefully about this precious opportunity. The shaman who managed the place especially praised Yuri because she only lived for 49 days and she still fulfilled someone else's wish. At the end of a busy day, Yuri met her daughter on the way home, along with Minjung. She only saw Seo-woo running to hug Yuri. At this moment, Yuri smiled through tears. She felt extremely happy. Minjung was a little surprised to see that, but happiness is always short-lived. Minjung then took Seo-woo back from Yuri. Yuri remembered what Minjung said in the bar, that Yuri should go and be Seo-woo's mother. Yuri turned around and asked Minjung if she could do it. It turned out that Yuri wanted to be a nanny to pick up and drop off Seo-woo. Yuri wanted to be her daughter's companion and at the same time be able to exorcise the ghosts in their house. But Minjung did not immediately agree. On the way home, Minjung asked Seo-woo if she liked Yuri. Seo-woo said that she did without hesitation. Minjung was a little jealous and said Seo-woo had never smiled at her like that. Then, Seo-woo kissed Minjung's hand. Seo-woo said that she liked Minjung more. Yuri looked at the two of them leaving and felt a little sad. At this moment, Kanghwa and Hyunjung both realized that something was wrong. How could Yuri suddenly come back to life and understand what had happened in the past 5 years? She must be trying to hide something. They wanted to do something for Yuri, but couldn't help her. The shaman also discovered that Yuri came back to life not because she cursed the gods, because that day, the whole group of ghosts cursed the council, but no one came back to life. Because of Yuri's sudden departure, her mother could only be busy working to make herself forget about Yuri's death. The family members on the side looked at her increasingly thin appearance, feeling heartbroken but helpless, but they could not have expected that at this moment, Yuri, who had passed away, was standing in front of their house. Right now, Yuri was confused and did not dare to go home, because she would pass away again. Yuri was afraid that she would bring a second pain to her family. Yuri's father saw the tonic on the ground and was a bit confused, but these tonics were very suitable for their constitutions, except for Yuri, who studied medicine, who could understand their bodies. The mother was moved by this scene. She rode her bike to the park to relax. Yuri was also there at this time. It was just that the two of them did not meet. Then she went to the temple to pray for her daughter as usual. When she was leaving, a psychic stopped her. The psychic said that the child she lost always remembered her. Her child cried all day and could not leave the mortal world. The psychic then gave the mother a talisman for 9,000 won. At this time, the shaman hit the psychic from behind, because the psychic had taken the shaman's talisman to scam. As a result, the shaman was careless and accidentally said that Yuri was still wandering around the streets. Yuri's mother was very angry when she heard that. Her daughter was said to be a wandering spirit by the shaman. The shaman knew that she had said the wrong thing and felt very sorry for Yuri. Yuri's father was at home, secretly looking at a photo of his granddaughter. This was a photo that he had hidden from his wife and ran to the kindergarten to volunteer. Suddenly, his wife returned, causing him to quickly hide his phone. At night, she discovered that he had changed his phone password. Yeonji knew the new password, so she helped her open it. Yuri's father's secret was discovered by his wife, so she went to find him and asked him, but he replied that it was okay to just volunteer. The wife said that it was not okay for him to just look at her. Now Seo-woo thinks that her stepmother is her biological mother. What if she finds out the truth? Yuri's mother also misses her granddaughter very much, but now they just hope that Seo-woo has a happy family. In the end, Yuri's father reached for the delete button for the photo he took with his granddaughter. The shaman still decided to tell Yuri about what happened today. They arranged to meet at Hyunjung's bar. Hyunjung asked the shaman why Yuri came back to life, but this kind of thing is not easy to talk about. While Hyunjung was shopping, the shaman told her about meeting Yuri's mother today. She kept apologizing to Yuri. When Hyunjung returned, she accidentally heard the shaman telling Yuri that why God let Yuri live again was not important. What was important was that Yuri returned to be Kanhwa's wife, and Sewoo's mother within 40 days. Otherwise, Yuri would have to die again. Only then would the whole family be happy. But Yuri still refused. Hearing this, Hyunjung suddenly walked in. She understood everything. Hyunjung did not expect Yuri to leave again. Then Hyunjung called Kanghwa. She wanted to tell him the truth and then demand Yuri's position back. Yuri quickly snatched Hyunjung's phone back and begged Hyunjung not to interfere. Yuri said that there was no place for her in this place anymore. They argued for a long time and Yuri started crying. Finally, Hyunjung had to compromise with Yuri. Hyunjung went to comfort Yuri. At this time, Yuri's mother passed by on her bike. Moreover, she also paid attention to the two of them. She kept looking at Yuri until she fell down and fainted. They were at the hospital by now. The mother had a dream about 2 years ago. The monk said that when parents die, they only mourn for 3 years, and death is natural. Now it's time for her to forget about Yuri. Yuri's mother said it seemed a bit cruel. She had been pregnant for 10 months and raised Yuri for 30 years, but the monk told her to forget in just 3 short years. She really wanted to see Yuri again, even if it was just once. When Kanghwa heard that his mother-in-law was in the hospital, he lied to Minjung and said that the hospital had an urgent surgery that needed him. Kanghwa arrived at the hospital. Yuri's mother had also woken up. She grabbed Kanghwa's hand and said that she seemed to see something but wasn't sure. Before she could finish speaking, she saw Yuri beside her. She sat up and touched her daughter's face and was sure that this was her daughter. Yuri was also crying and calling out Mom. Yuri's father and sister rushed over when they heard the news. They saw Yuri and her mother hugging each other and crying. Although they couldn't understand it, Yuri was really right in front of them. The person they had been missing had suddenly returned. Yeonji was also moved to tears. Yuri returned home to her family. That night, Yuri slept with her mother. They talked very intimately. Yuri's soul had been beside her mother before, but her mother couldn't sense her ghost at that time. Everything was like a dream. The next morning, Yuri went out early. She found a test report that Kanghwa had brought outside the door. Yuri remembered when she and Kanghwa first met. He had chosen the thoracic surgery department because of Yuri's mother. Kanghwa said that if Yuri's mother had a problem with her heart, it would be best if there was a doctor by her side at all times. He said he would take care of her mother for the rest of her life. Yuri was moved by him, but after Yuri died, her mother went to the hospital and didn't come to Kanghwa anymore. Kanghwa had always indirectly helped Yuri's mother get checked out. When Yuri was still a ghost, she had seen everything. She felt extremely happy to have met Kanghwa in this life. Yuri still went to kindergarten to work as a chef. When Yuri saw her daughter going to school, she took the initiative to change her daughter's shoes. Minjung knew Yuri liked Seo-woo. Before leaving, Yuri gave Minjung 2 cans of coffee. Minjung said she didn't like this kind and she only liked to drink Americano. Yuri couldn't help but laugh because when she was a ghost, she saw Minjung drinking this kind all day. Minjung also didn't understand why Yuri knew she liked to drink this kind. Minjung agreed to let Yuri be the nanny to pick up and drop off Seo-woo. After school, Yuri prepared a charm and got more red beans. Yuri wanted to take this opportunity to go to their house to chase away the spirits in the house. Yuri thought that her daughter's illness had been cured, but when Yuri took Seo-woo to eat food on the side of the road, Seo-woo's eyes kept staring at the spirit of a man. Yuri knew at first glance that this person was a ghost. It seemed that chasing away the spirits around Seo-woo had no effect. Seo-woo could still see the ghosts. When Yuri entered the house, a ghost flew past her. Yuri held the shaman's magic weapon and quickly chased after the ghost. The ghost immediately hid in Kanghwa and Minjung's bedroom. The moment Yuri opened the door, she hesitated. Because before, as a ghost, Yuri had set herself a rule of absolutely not entering their bedroom. But now, because of her daughter, Yuri didn't care that much. When Yuri saw that the dressing table had their wedding photos, she still felt a little disappointed. She said that it seemed like the ghosts weren't here either and was about to leave the room. But she immediately used the shaman's magic weapon to capture the other ghosts. It turned out that she had only fooled the ghosts into losing their guard so that she could capture them more easily. At this time, Yuri told the ghost, stuck to the wall, that she had told him to go somewhere else before. But why did he keep hanging around Kanghwa's house? Then Yuri discovered another female ghost. This girl was a virgin ghost who always followed Kanghwa. She tried many times but couldn't enter Minjung's body. In the end, Yuri handed the female ghost over to the shaman as if she was helping the shaman increase her work efficiency. But the virgin ghost wasn't under the shaman's control, so she sent a Kali. The wandering ghost could only enter and exit families with heavy yang energy. Yuri took him to the house of 3 ghosts whose son was a pilot. Then she asked the shaman what to do if she chased away all the ghosts around Seo-woo, but Seo-woo still saw ghosts. The shaman said it was okay. Seo-woo's life would be like the shaman's in the future. Yuri was extremely scared after hearing that. Yuri absolutely would not allow her daughter to join this profession. Yuri spoke without caring about the shaman's feelings. After Yuri picked up Seo-woo, Hyunjung called Yuri to her bar. Hyunjung said that Yuri was a mother, but in her daughter's eyes, Yuri's. She was a nanny. Yuri turned around and looked at her daughter. Finally, Yuri told Hyunjum the truth that of course she wanted to live. She really wanted to live. But So-woo could see ghosts. It was all her fault. As a mother, she couldn't do anything for her daughter. This was the only thing Yuri could do for her daughter. Only when Yuri disappeared did So-woo become a normal person. The next day, Kanghwa received a call from Yuri. It turned out that she had an accident while saving someone. Kanghwa ran like crazy to the emergency room. This time, he was determined not to let the tragedy happen again. At this time, the shaman thought about Yuri's discrimination towards people like them, and she felt a little sad. Then she picked up her bag and prepared to start a new day of work. But as soon as she went out, a mysterious person stood in front of her. He was holding a staff with the number 8 on it. The shaman was extremely surprised and asked him why he came here. He leisurely said that he hadn't waited for news from the shaman. That's why he could only come here to pick up the child. The person they were talking about was Yuri's daughter, So-woo. The soul of an old woman was constantly trying to escape from her body. After Yuri saw it, she panicked and called the doctor to save the old woman first. But the nurse said that the person next to her had to be saved first. The old woman had just fainted. No one here believed what Yuri said. Just then, Yuri witnessed a collision on the road. Yuri ran to save the old woman without hesitation. The old woman was unconscious. Kanghwa thought that Yuri had an accident, so he rushed to the emergency room. When Kanghwa saw that Yuri was safe and sound, he breathed a sigh of relief. Yuri said that the old woman inside was about to die. She told him to go in there and save the old woman. Then Kanghwa took out a flashlight and looked at her pupils. It was true that the patient was in danger. He told the nurse to call the cardiology department because she was in danger. After a while, Kanghwa came and said that the danger was over. She just needed to wait for her family to come, and then she could do the surgery. But Kanghwa curiously asked Yuri how she knew that the old lady was about to die. Yuri said that it was because she used her so-called sixth sense. Ever since Yuri came back to life, her mother had always been with her. Yuri's mother said that this time, even if she died, she would be at ease. They passed by a clothing store. Yuri saw a dress in the store and ran to buy it, wanting to give it to her younger sister. But when it got dark, Yuri discovered that her younger sister had taken the dress back to her room. It turned out that her younger sister had also bought the dress after work. They were very surprised because they had bought the same dress to give to each other. Actually, they had once had a big argument over a set of clothes. Each of them took a pair of scissors, wanting to cut the other's clothes. After Yuri lost her mind, she cut her younger sister's clothes in half. Her younger sister got angry, and then the two of them wrestled with each other. Then Yuri died in an accident. Her younger sister was heartbroken and held the dress, missing her so much. Her sister kept calling her name. Yuri's soul was there and saw everything. Yuri's ghost was heartbroken and comforted her sister. Because of that, they all felt regretful in their hearts. After Yuri fell asleep, her father sat by her bed. He remembered the time when he lost his daughter, and he and his family were very sad. When Yuri woke up, she saw her father unable to hold back his sobs, and she was very heartbroken. She originally wanted to comfort her father, but it ended up making him cry even louder. Yuri still went to the kindergarten to work as usual. One of the children told everyone a secret that she heard that So-woo's mother wanted to abandon So-woo. Yuri especially hated rumors about her daughter, so she asked her who you heard the news from. The girl said that she heard it when her parents were talking. At that time, the girl's mother was still spreading the news that So-woo's parents were about to divorce. The mother accidentally sent it to the kindergarten's parent group. Hyunjum saw it and was extremely angry. At this time, Rai also angrily went to Hyunjum's store. Minjum also saw the message. Because of this, Hyunjum, Yuri, and Minjum gathered together again. Minjum proposed a plan to use violence against those who spread the rumors. Then they changed their clothes and prepared to act first. The three women went into the kindergarten to use force to deal with those who spread the rumors. Kanghwa was alone with his daughter. Kanghwa asked where to put the sticker. Seo-woo pasted it on the family photo of the three of them and said a name. Yuri. Kanghwa was very surprised. But after Yuri came back to life, she changed her name. So how did So-woo know her biological mother's name? So-woo never knew that she had a biological mother. But today, So-woo suddenly said Yuri's name. Kanghwa immediately went to see Yuri and told her about this. Yuri held the photo and immediately understood everything. It wasn't that So-woo saw ghosts later. It turned out that she had always known about Yuri's existence. There were also other ghosts who often called Yuri's name in front of So-woo. That's why So-woo knew her name was Yuri. Yuri blamed herself a lot because Yuri didn't let Kanghwa be sad. She still didn't tell him that she was the ghost that followed them for 5 years. When Yuri was walking home, a stranger suddenly blocked her way. The strange man was a colleague of the shaman who appeared in front of Yuri. Yuri just treated him as a passerby. She ignored him and walked past him. The man held out his staff, and Yuri was immediately sucked back. Only then did she realize that he was not an ordinary person. Yuri had a bad feeling. Then she flew forward again. It turned out that the shaman had come to save Yuri. The man said that the shaman could save Yuri now, but could not save her for the rest of her life. Because of Seo-woo's ability, more exorcists would come. After saying that, the man disappeared into the night. Yuri asked the shaman who that person was, and why this matter was related to her daughter. The shaman said that person was her colleague, but he was cruel and heartless. As long as he appeared in the place where he appeared, no ghost would linger in the human world. Nowadays, people who can see ghosts are getting fewer and fewer, so the exorcists have targeted Yuri's daughter. Then the shaman seriously asked Yuri if she still gave up on regaining her position to be resurrected. Yuri said that the girl she loved the most in the world was Min-jung, so Yuri couldn't let her daughter lose Min-jung, so Yuri resolutely gave up on being resurrected. The shaman assured Yuri that she would protect Seo-woo well for 49 days before Yuri left, and leave the rest to her. She wouldn't let Seo-woo see ghosts again. Then Yuri brought some equipment just in case. Then Yuri gave Min-jung a set with a stick and a siren for self-defense. Yuri told Min-jung that there had been a lot of crimes recently, so she had to protect Seo-woo well. One day, Kang-hwa brought Seo-woo to Yuri and said that he had something to do, so he asked her to take care of Seo-woo. In fact, he knew that Yuri's family missed Seo-woo very much, but they couldn't be happy like a real family, so he lied to Min-jung and said that today he wanted to take the child out to play with Hin-jung's child. Yuri saw his thoughts and was filled with gratitude. Yuri's father heard the child's laughter and thought he was dreaming. Now, when he ran outside, he saw that it was indeed his grandchild. Yuri's father was extremely happy. This was the first time the whole family had enjoyed family happiness since she was born. Unfortunately, Min-jung met Hyun-jung walking with her child on the street. Min-jung realized that her husband was lying, but Min-jung didn't ask Kang-hwa. Kang-hwa waited outside alone until evening. At this time, Yuri called and asked him to come pick up the child. Yuri thanked Kang-hwa and said that her parents were very happy today. Min-jung was a little worried at home. She sent a message asking where Kang-hwa was. Just as he let go of her hand to reply to the message, suddenly, she heard the exorcist calling her, so she ran to the exorcist. But Kang-hwa didn't know anything, only saw the exorcist staring at Seo-woo. His expression became serious. Then he put his hand on her head. At this time, Kang-hwa turned around, grabbed the exorcist's collar and asked who he was. He smiled wickedly. Then he revealed Yuri's story to Kang-hwa that Yuri had been a ghost for 5 years. All day long, she only followed him and her daughter, and Yuri would die again. Kang-hwa sent his daughter to his friend's house first. Then he came to Yuri again. He tearfully told her that it turned out that she had always been with him. Why could she bear to see everything for the past 5 years? Kang-hwa knelt down and kept apologizing to her. He felt that she was always by his side, but on the contrary, he let her witness him marrying someone else. At this time, Min-jung called Kang-hwa, but his phone was turned off. Min-jung went to Hyun-jung's store and saw Seo-woo running out from inside. Kyung-sang saw that the lie was about to be exposed. He stammered that the hospital had an emergency, so Kang-hwa was called there. Min-jung didn't want to ask much either. At this time, Yuri said that seeing Kang-hwa and Min-jung get married made her very heartbroken, but she also told him not to blame himself too much. Yuri asked him how he knew about the ghost story. He then told her what happened. Yuri said that the man would take Seo-woo away at any time. Yuri told Kang-hwa to protect their daughter well. In the next few days, Kang-hwa didn't leave her daughter's side for even a single step. Min-jung saw this and asked Kang-hwa what was going on. Finally, Kang-hwa told Min-jung to come to the hospital cafe in the afternoon. He wanted to tell her everything about Yuri. In the afternoon, Min-jung left Seo-woo at Hyun-jung's place. Yuri and Hyun-jung would look after Seo-woo. Min-jung then bought 3 bracelets on the side of the road to acknowledge the friendship between the 3 of them. Yuri sat on a park bench thinking about her last days. Yuri's father was playing with Seo-woo, but when she went to buy drinks, something unexpected happened. An old woman who was collecting scrap metal fell down. Yuri's father immediately ran to help, so Seo-woo left alone again. When Yuri came back from buying things, she saw her father looking for Seo-woo everywhere. Yuri was very worried when she heard this news. At this time, not far from Seo-woo, the exorcist was slowly walking towards her. Kang-hwa went to the cafe as scheduled. He only saw his wife running out in panic. When they knew that their daughter was missing, they immediately went to look for her. It was already dark, but they still had no trace of Seo-woo. Min-jung worriedly fell into Kang-hwa's arms. Yuri also blamed herself. She was crying when she saw a ghost boy waving at her. Then, the boy pointed to the slide. Yuri ran to the slide and finally found Seo-woo. Seo-woo had fallen asleep inside. It turned out that in the afternoon, Yuri's 3 ghost friends were by their son's side as usual. They saw the exorcist walking towards Seo-woo. The 3 spirits changed their fear of the exorcist. The spirit of the man went up to distract the exorcist. The other 2 people lured Seo-woo to hide in the slide and not come out. They originally wanted to wait until their son got married before leaving the mortal world, but they gave up on this wish to repay Yuri. Yuri. The exorcist immediately sent them to Nirvana. Yuri knew the news from the shaman. Yuri hoped that when she was Nirvana, she would be able to meet and thank them. Kanhwa returned home and told Minjung the truth that the nanny who picked them up was Yuri and also Sewoo's biological mother. Yuri had come back to life. Yuri discovered that a ghost was clinging to Kyungsang. Yuri went to ask Kyungsang what he had done to be haunted by the ghost. Kyungsang was scared and told Yuri not to try to scare him. He had always been scared when he knew that Yuri could see ghosts. He couldn't help but believe it. Kyungsang could only use singing to comfort himself. Then he went to his wife's bar. His wife thought that Yuri would probably only have a few days left before disappeared. Then she hurriedly ran away and told Kyungsang to look after the bar. Kyungsang was scared and told his wife not to go. If she left now, he wouldn't be able to look after the bar alone. Hyunjung rented a new car. She insisted on taking Yuri out for a day of relaxation. This was one of the rare happy moments since Yuri came back to life. Kyungsang was extremely scared when he was alone. Then he found the business card of the shaman and invited her to his house for a consultation. The shaman didn't arrive until evening. The ghost was caught by the shaman in front of the bar. Kyungsang couldn't believe what he saw. Then the two of them sat down and talked. The shaman acted as an interpreter between Kyungsang and the ghost. Kyungsang asked the ghost why it was clinging to him. The ghost said that only Kyungsang could help him. It turned out that the ghost was a famous baseball player, the baseball player's best friend. In order to cover up the falsification of the match results, killed the baseball player and then made it up as a stupid incident. In the end, the friend who framed the baseball player also died in an accident because before the baseball player died, he had sought psychological counseling from Kyungsang. That medical record was very important to his mother. As long as Kyungsang showed his mother the medical record, he would guarantee that he would not follow Kyungsang anymore. At this time, Minjung still did not believe that Yuri had died and was still alive, so she decided to go find out the situation. Yuri and Hyunjung hung out together for a whole day. When they were leaving, Minjung saw them. Minjung followed them all the way from the bar to here. She went up to confirm. Then Minjung saw Yuri's name tag hanging in front of the door. Only then did Minjung believe that person was indeed Yuri and Sewoo's biological mother. This meant that Minjung would lose everything. Yuri was sitting at the dining table with her family and friends. She was enjoying this long-lost reunion. Yuri's father was also moved to tears. When Hyunjung returned to the bar, she told Kyungsang that Yuri would soon disappear again. Kyungsang was very surprised when he heard it. At this time, Kanghwa came to Hyunjung's bar and heard the conversation between Hyunjung and Kyungsang. Kanghwa asked them why Yuri was about to disappear. Yuri's death 5 years ago had made Kanghwa extremely depressed, but now Yuri was about to disappear again. Hyunjung thought that if he already knew, it wouldn't be a bad thing. Hyunjung told Kanghwa that as long as Yuri quickly returned to her position as his wife and Sewoo's mother, she would be able to live on. Then Kanghwa called Yuri out to meet him privately. He criticized her for hiding this matter, saying that it was too cruel to him. Kanghwa said that if she left again, he would lose her a second time. Yuri also cried and said that after she died last time, she wanted to give up her attachment to the human world and reincarnate. But seeing Kanhwa's sad appearance, she stayed. Finally, Kanhwa calmed down and said that if Yuri could find her place again, she could stay, so she should continue living. Moreover, now Minjung knew Yuri's true identity. After that, Kanhwa went home to talk to Minjung, but he couldn't say anything. Minjung had to speak first. She said that everything originally didn't belong to her. If Yuri had come back to life, then Minjung would have decided to leave Kanghwa and Sewoo. Kanghwa bowed his head and didn't hold back. He only said a low apology. This made Minjung even more heartbroken. Today, the pilot, the youngest of the three ghosts, went to visit his parents with his sister. By chance, he saw Yuri's memorial photo. He was surprised because it wasn't the sister who had cleaned his room a few days ago. There were only a few ghosts left at the funeral home. They had almost all been sent away by the exorcist. At this moment, the exorcist came and happened to pass by the pilot. The ghosts were scared and ran away everywhere. They only saw the exorcist walking towards the three ghosts. The pilot, who had just come to pay his respects, hadn't gone far when he turned around and saw the exorcist standing there pointing around. Then the exorcist waved his staff and sucked in a female ghost. At this time, the pilot heard the exorcist say that his parents were wandering ghosts, so he immediately went up and grabbed the exorcist by the collar. The exorcist immediately lost his previous arrogance. Finally, amidst the cheers of the ghosts for the pilot, the embarrassed exorcist was dragged away by the pilot. On the other side, Kyungsang wanted to help the baseball player's ghost fulfill his wish, so Kyungsang invited his mother to the hospital. Then Kyungsang showed her the baseball player's medical records when he was alive. It mentioned the relationship with the patient's family members. Kyungsang said that the baseball player's strong desire was to reconcile with his parents because his family had a conflict. In the past, he left home. Many years later, he bought a gift to resolve resolve the conflict with his parents, but that night he was killed. So his mother thought that he had done something stupid, so she always blamed herself. At this time, the mother understood her son's intentions. Only then did she feel relieved. In order to let Yuri continue to live, Kanwa looked for her to go out for some fresh air. At first, he wanted to strengthen the relationship between her and So-woo, but Yuri's mother suddenly stopped while she was shopping. She saw Min-jung sitting alone and feeling sad. She couldn't help but remember the days when Yuri wasn't there. At that time, her niece often came here to play. Yuri's mother just pretended to pass by and sit on the bench. Over time, Min-jung intuitively guessed Yuri's mother's identity. After that, every time Min-jung saw Yuri's mother come here, she would take Se-woo to play in that part. For Yuri's mother, that was a blessing. Later, Yuri's mother discovered that it wasn't a coincidence, but that Min-jung had guessed her identity. Now Yuri's mother could also guess why. Min-young was so sad, so Yuri's mother sat down next to Min-young and asked her if you recognized me. Min-jung nodded. Then Yuri's mother said that Min-jung was So-woo's mother, so you would definitely understand So-woo very well, just like I understood Yuri. So Yuri's mother wanted to tell Min-jung that what she was worried about would not happen now. These words were the greatest comfort to Min-jung. Yuri's mother thanked Min-jung and left. When it got dark, Kanghwa took Yuri home. He said that he had taken a long leave and he invited her back to her previous position. Yuri told him seriously that she couldn't go back because yesterday, after she had dinner with her family and friends, she became greedy and ran to the shaman's house that night. The first thing Yuri said was that she wanted to live. She had to continue living with her parents and children. The shaman said that Yuri could live, but if she lived, her daughter would see ghosts for the rest of her life. Because Yuri's body was no longer in the mortal world, Yuri was both a human and a ghost. If Yuri stayed by So-woo's side, she wouldn't be able to be normal. So Yuri asked Kanghwa to stop holding her back. As So-woo's mother, she couldn't ruin So-woo's future just to let herself live. In the end, Kanghwa couldn't help but accept this result. When he got home, he could only tell his sleeping daughter that the beautiful girl at the kindergarten was the one who gave birth to her. He hoped that when his daughter grew up, she would forgive him for his choice today. At this time, the shaman finally found out why Yuri was resurrected, so she ran to the temple and stared at the prayer paper on top. One of the papers kept shaking. She finally found out why Yuri was resurrected. The next day, she returned the card to Yuri. This was Yuri's mother's wish. It was written on it that she wanted to see her daughter, even just once. Ever since her daughter died, she had come to pray sincerely every day. She really only wanted to see Yuri just once because she missed Yuri so much. It was the gods who were moved by her sincerity that revived Yuri. Yuri then asked the shaman what the judgment would be during the 49 days of resurrected life. The shaman told Yuri that it was a test, that the gods wanted to see if she was greedy or not, whether she would sacrifice So-woo to stay in the human world or not. After Yuri understood everything, she felt relieved. At this moment, she disappeared without regret. Everything in Yuri's room in the house disappeared. Yuri's mother felt uneasy. Ever since Yuri was resurrected, she had the same dream every day of Yuri saying goodbye to her. Then in the end, Yuri turned around and left. Even if that dream came true, she would be satisfied. She said that she would smile and send Yuri off. At this time, Yuri returned home. Her mother asked her a question. Before she was resurrected, was her soul always with her mother? Seeing that Yuri still didn't answer, it seemed that her mother's guess was right. The mother apologized to Yuri when she only cared about her own pain. She didn't expect that her daughter's spirit would always be by her side. She shouldn't have let Yuri see her so sad. At this moment, Min-jung was about to leave Kanghwa. She also intended to take So-woo to school for the last time. Only saw So-woo take a bandage from her pocket and put it on Min-jung's hand. It turned out that So-woo saw that Min-jung was in a bad mood and thought that Min-jung was sick, so she wanted to help Min-jung treat her. Min-jung was touched by So-woo. She hugged So-woo tightly. Yuri went to Hyun-jung's pub. Hyun-jung said that this was what Min-jung had just brought to Yuri. This was the friendship bracelet that Min-jung bought last time. Although unbelievable things happened during this time, she still accepted the friendship between the three of them. When Yuri heard that Min-jung wanted to divorce Kanghwa, she immediately went to see Min-jung. Yuri told Min-jung not to leave Kanghwa. There was only one reason. Yuri had to leave. Min-jung was very surprised. Her emotions were mixed. A large part was that she couldn't bear to leave her friend, but she didn't know how she would face Yuri. Then Min-jung went to see Kanghwa and told him what was in her heart. In fact, Min-jung left Kanghwa not simply because of Yuri, but because he had never opened his heart to her. Kanghwa only apologized with a simple sentence to get it over with. For everything Min-jung did for So-woo, he said thank you to her. Min-jung could not enter Kanghwa's heart. In the end, Kanghwa said that Yuri left too suddenly. She left him with too many regrets. So Kanghwa didn't want to repeat the same mistake, so he treated Min-jung like that. Min-jung exclaimed that he finally opened his heart to her. Why did he wait until now to say it? She will never leave Kanghwa again. Min-jung tells Kanghwa to send Yuri off off sincerely without any regrets. Yuri only has 3 days left in her life. Yuri writes down a list of her regrets. Her first wish is to fulfill her promise to treat the ghosts at the funeral home to a barbecue meal. The waiter finds it a bit strange when he sees her talking to herself. Yuri writes their names on a piece of white paper. This is a simple deity, without which they cannot eat. Compared to before, they didn't even have a single piece of leftover food on the table to eat. Now, it's too much, so they sincerely thank Yuri. Yuri's next wish is to repay those who helped her. Another meal that can solve everything. Third is to enjoy everyday life. Yuri discovers that her wish list is to eat with different people. Fourth is to say goodbye to her family. Actually, Yuri wrote a menu. The last wish is to say goodbye to the person she loves. This also means that the ending and tears of this drama are here. Yuri goes camping with Hyunjung's family. Hyunjung gives Yuri a letter written by Minjung to her. It says that Minjung doesn't have the courage to meet Yuri, so she can only write a letter to say what she wants to say. Minjung is angry because Yuri and Kanhwa hid it from her. It also includes regret for losing a friend. Minjung is happy to be able to know Yuri. Minjung hopes that Yuri will live happily in the time she has left. Minjung will protect Seo-woo well. The person Yuri is most insecure about is her daughter. Therefore, for her, Minjung's words are the most precious gift. After dinner, Yuri talked to Kanhwa for the last time. His biggest regret was not being able to watch his daughter grow up with her, nor growing old with her. Yuri hoped that Kanhwa would have a good life in the future. Even if it was for her daughter, she had to be happy. When she was sad, she had to remember not to be sad, but to smile. Kanhwa said that he would miss her. He would only keep the happy memories. The flowers in the yard were blooming. Today was the day Yuri left. She said goodbye to her daughter for the last time in the park. This is the first time her daughter calls Yuri mom. A farewell that makes Yuri feel heartbroken. Before Yuri left, the shaman came to see Yuri off. She said that there are not many people in the world who can be like Yuri. Being able to say goodbye to everyone is a blessing from heaven. However, there is still one person missing. Then the shaman gave Yuri a mirror and told her to say her final goodbye to herself. Yuri looked in the mirror and said goodbye to herself. She no longer had any attachments to the world and walked leisurely forward. At the end of the movie, it is said that after going to heaven, there will be 2 questions. If you answer both questions yes, you will be human in the next life. The first question is whether you are happy in this life. The second question is whether other people are happy because of you. Try to answer it yourself. That's all for today's movie. Thank you everyone for watching. See you in the next video.